I was born in Warsaw, Poland, during a time where the country wasn't completely free. There was the whole communist regime going on, and my mom and my sister ended up actually moving to Holland at one point as well, actually fleeing, I suppose, as political refugees. But towards the end, it was getting worse and worse. There was basically a lack of food, everything. At the same time, everybody was at the same financial level. But anyway, the lack of everything made people very creative. If you would enter a supermarket, I remember actually that the supermarket most of the time was actually empty. There were empty shelves, and you would just sometimes have a bin with bread, but sometimes even that bin was empty. Sometimes something would come in from Russia, and it's like, yay, there's cans of peas all of a sudden. So there would be huge lines lining up for the cans of peas. And whatever. With that type of upbringing, I guess you do need a lot of humor and a lot of imagination. I think my mom had a huge influence on me in the sense that she taught me how to look. I grew up in Warsaw, but in the outskirts of Warsaw, and we'd sometimes take the bus or a neighbor's car, and we would go to little woods outside of Warsaw and walk around there in the weekend. And my mom would always point out things to me like, look at this animal, look at this plant. And I have the feeling that actually might have to do a lot with what I'm doing still. That's also actually still the best part of being an artist. A lot of things come for free when you're an artist. A lot of joy and energy and inspiration, everything comes for free actually. I was sort of mediocre to good in everything, and drawing was just one of the other things that I did, so it didn't really stand out to me that I really wanted to make art until, I don't know, maybe 16 or something. I just realized that I really, really enjoyed it, and I didn't enjoy anything else that much. Living in New York City, a huge concentration of every possible country, culture on a small piece of land, just like busy, 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 concentrated stuff. I think that probably informed my work in the sense that my work is very busy and crazy, and the chaos of New York, I think, is mirrored in my work most of the time right now. I usually come in probably around 10. I find the commute to my studio helps me already to sort of premeditate, or I'm not even thinking about art, but I'm just being passive and nobody, just a piece of meat on the subway, and that's kind of nice cleansing. I usually need some time to get started, so I usually make tea, sit down, sometimes I write something, sometimes I read in my book for maybe up to an hour even. I turn music on as soon as possible, and I stare and sort of flirt with my work for a while. Sometimes I pretend not to look, and then I look anyway. I tend to work with cheap materials. Maybe that's my Polishness. I can't buy things that are too expensive. It makes me very nervous and really afraid to fail, although I have become better at that. The stuff behind me is made on newsprint. You're not supposed to work on newsprint because it yellows within 2 days hanging out in the daylight, and then it just starts to disintegrate altogether. Newsprint is really nice to work on. It's really nice to draw on, and especially with ballpoint pen, which is also another thing that you're never supposed to use. A couple of years ago, I was more interested in just the figure and the body language. What do certain gestures mean, and what does it mean when you put two figures together and place them like that or like that? Where's the tension? How do we read this tension? What does it make us feel? And I was less interested in the background or any kind of environment. I would draw figures against a white background with just a line. And then I did start to become more interested in an environment, but an artificial environment, in the way that maybe ideas live in our minds, that we have a memory of a certain place. So none of the spaces that I work really exist except in my own head. And like a couple of years ago, I started to work with memories of forests that were around my grandparents in Poland. It was just a feeling of a memory. It wasn't even, I wasn't trying to draw a specific type of woods or plants or anything, but just an idea of being there and having nature swallow people up in some way, where nature becomes more lively than the figure in an environment. My favorite artist would be Krzysztof Kieślowski. And I love his movies, the Trois Couleurs or La Double Vie de Véronique. His work is hopelessly romantic. It has a hopelessly belief in a human being, in the mistakes that a person can make, but also all the good things that come out of it. It has got a love, basically, for it. It has got a weird sense of humor too. I think most of his characters are funny in some way, but they're funny in a desperate way, in a sad way, but in a in a good way. So it has got the humor. It has got just the endless belief in us as human beings. In the gallery, there's some drawings hanging of mine that are landscapes of piles of people. And again, they're not existing landscapes. They're more of the idea that on a certain surface somewhere, or in a field or a country, there's a lot of history layered upon each other. And if you could imagine that those people would be lying there, they would be probably lying there. Just history of other people, a lot of deaths in some sense. That has got to do with my grandparents' forest too. Where my grandparents lived, both First and Second World War was fought. There was actually battles there. So there were a lot of dead bodies lying around in those forests. And I guess that made an impression, the stories of that made an impression on me as a child. So people watching is one of the most fun parts anyway. But I definitely do that a lot. When I walk around with my husband, it's funny because we tend to see the same things. So at one point you don't have to say anymore, see that, but you just look at each other like, yeah, we saw that. And that's why I like being in New York a lot. There's just really a lot to see. I like to see human contact without completely knowing what's going on. Once I was sitting on a train and I saw two people whisper to each other for a very long time. It was a man and a woman. I think the woman might have been his mother, but they were both adults. And they were having a very intimate, beautiful conversation in a very soft voice. I had no idea what they were talking about, but I loved the two figures bent together and just the calm that was going in between. I see those things, my hairs on my arms stand on end, and I'm thinking, okay, I want to use that somehow. I want to use that somehow. It's rather pathetic in that it's an everyday struggle in the sense that every day you ask yourself a question: should I be doing this? Am I kidding myself? I'm this and this old. Should I not be considering a serious job now? Maybe I should go back to school. There's a rather sad part about being an artist like that. The good parts of being an artist are a lot of stuff comes for free, and it's really very relevant stuff and deep stuff, and actually this stuff enables you to calm down about should I make more money and go back to school. And it's the stuff that you see. You when you walk outside, you start to see crazy connections between people that don't exist. I know in the beginning, when I was drawing a lot of figures a couple of years ago, I was drawing figures that were in relationship with each other, and I would walk out on the street, and all of a sudden I would see this whole ballet unfolding in front of my eyes, basically, and that's like the best thing. It's like being on drugs without being on drugs. I don't do drugs, so this is my drug. Another crazy thing that happens, and I'm sure a lot of people have it when they draw a lot, when you draw for a couple of hours, when you come outside, you start to see the world as a drawing. You start to see outlines on buildings and colors that flatten out. That's kind of a kick. That's a nice part. The nice part is, I think, being able to enjoy things that are out there without anybody dictating to you that you should be enjoying them. It's a big freedom.